Hello and welcome to a beginning After Effects tutorial. If you are brand new to After Effects, this is going to be the perfect tutorial for you. If you already have a basic understanding of how everything works and how it all is kind of put together, just a fairly basic level, then skip right on through. Okay, so now we're going to start by just opening up After Effects. So you see here, I'll open up After Effects. This is the CC version, or it's also CS6. So this is CS6. On the left side here, you can just see some of the recent projects I've been working on. And then on the right side, you can see, kind of just basic stuff, new composition, new open project, stuff like that. Cool aspect about the Creative Cloud software is that you can sync your settings with your account. So no matter where you go, as long as you log into your account, you can always have the same settings. So if you have your After Effects set up just perfectly, you can have it the same way every time. So right now, I just want to open a new composition. So in this new composition menu, you can change the name of your composition. We'll just title it Beginning. And then you can select the resolution of your footage. I'm going to be working with 1080p footage, which is the height, and that's a 16:9 aspect ratio. So I'll have 1920 as my width. You really want to make sure that your frame rates are correct, because I'm shooting with a Canon DSLR. I chose to shoot at 23.976 frames per second. But also another common one is, 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second, depending on where you live and what you're doing. And then that's pretty much good. The last thing is you maybe want to change the duration of your composition. So we'll change this to, instead of 30 seconds, we'll just change it to 1 minute. Okay, and so now we have our composition. This is just a transparent layer. This is what transparency looks like. So up in the top left here, you can see you have your project menu. This is where you can see all the footage that you have loaded into this After Effects project. This is also shows the different compositions you have. So you can see we have our beginning composition, and you can see the beginning composition there. If we were to create a new composition and title this New, then we'd have our new composition, and then you can see the new composition here. But we'll close that for right now, and so we just have this. And so now in our bottom left here, you can see all of our different layers. And we don't have any layers right now, but if I come in here and I import some footage, so I'll say right-click, import, file. I put something on my desktop just for this. I'll come in here and I'll import this footage from a recent film I was working on. So now we have our footage in there. We'll bring that, just drag it down into the layer. And then we have our footage on this layer, and you can see it here. You can scrub through it. And it's pretty bland footage, but we'll spice it up in a minute. So just to give you a basic understanding, you can press spacebar to just play through your footage right away. And although you can see it's kind of struggling to play it back in real time. So what you can do is you can pre-render the footage or preview the footage, or what's called a RAM preview. And so what we'll do to control that is you have a work area. And so this work area defines the area of which I'm working, obviously. And so what we'll do is we'll shrink that down just to the size of our footage here. And then we'll come up here and just press preview. And so now you can see it's going through the footage and collecting the data. It's putting it on your memory, your RAM. And then we'll be able to play back the footage at real time. And so now you can just watch your footage. Another thing to draw your attention to is if your computer's a little bit slower, or if you have a lot of stuff going on, you can change the resolution of your RAM preview. So if this is a little bit too much for my computer to handle, I can play it back in half resolution or third or even a quarter resolution, which I wouldn't do right now, but say I had a lot of different, muzzle flares or blood splatter or somebody getting hit by a car, that takes a lot of different elements, then I probably would play it back in lower resolution. Anyway, moving on. So now we have our first layer. This is just our footage layer. Say we want to add just a solid on top of that. So we'll take a solid. We'll make it something other than black. Make it a red solid. So now we have a new red solid. To create a solid, you can right-click here. You can just right-click and say New Solid. Or you can also come in and say Layer, New, Solid. So now we have our red solid. And you can see that this red solid is covering up our footage. Because these are layers, just like layers in any other program, such as Photoshop or something else like that, they cover each other. And whatever's on top, whatever's highest up, shows. So if we take this red layer, red solid, and drag it underneath our footage, you can see it disappears. Now say we take this and we'll bring down its properties, transform properties, scale, we'll scale it down a little bit. So now you can see that this red square is on top of our footage, and you can change that around. Just so you can get a little bit more familiar with the program, I'll pull up the scale properties here by just pressing S. That's a good one you want to know, so you can just press S with this selected to change the scale. Another important one is R for rotation and P for position. So you want to get those three down pretty quick: scale, rotation, and position. But say you want to look at more than one of those properties at a time. So if there's nothing here, say I'll press P for position, then I'll hold Shift and press R for rotation. So now I have both position and rotation ready for me. And then I can also press Shift, hold Shift, and press S to get scale. One more is I can hold Shift and press T for opacity. And opacity is how much you can see this layer. So right now it's at 100%. You can see the layer really well. But if we turn the opacity down, you can see it becomes transparent, translucent, and completely opaque and completely transparent. So now, just to finish talking about the basic layout of After Effects, we'll come up and we can double click on footage to bring it up in a new panel here. So now that we double click this footage, this panel up here is only showing this footage. No matter what else is in our composition, no matter what other layers we have, this panel up here is only showing this footage. So if we come back into our composition panel up here, you can see we have the red solid is still there. But then if we double click on this footage, it brings us back into this panel where we're only looking at this footage. And this will be very helpful later if you're trying to just look at one piece of footage at a time. Say you have a whole bunch of different layers and you want to isolate them. Okay, so moving right along, we'll come back into our composition panel here, and then say we'll get rid of this red solid. We don't need that anymore. You just highlight it and press delete. Say we want to add some text to this footage. We'll come in and we'll select the text tool, shortcut Control T or Command T on a Mac, and we'll write something. So let's write After Effects. Okay, that doesn't show up very well, so we'll press Control A to select all of our text and say we'll change our text. Here's the color wheel from white to, say, let's just make it black. So now we have our black After Effects text. Also with the text, you can change the font right up here, so you pick whatever font you want. This happens to be a custom font downloaded. And then you can also change the size of the text, as well as you can control how wide the text is independently from how tall the text is. So this gives you a lot of very specific control if you want to make the text very tall or very, very, very short in this case. And so we'll leave it right at 100 by 100, which is, I can't type, which is the default. Okay, so that's what you can do with text. If we want to move the text around, we can come back here and we'll just click on our text layer. You can see it created a layer down here. And then we can move our text around, so we want to keep it up here. And so then as we play through, that text is just always there in the top right. Now another thing to mention is you can see our text layer here. These layers correspond, so the red layer is our text, the turquoise layer is our footage. And we can shorten our text layer so that it doesn't appear as long. And so you can see as we play through, our text is here, and then as this layer ends, our text disappears. Very sharp transition, but that's how it is right now. Say we want to make that transition a little bit more smooth, you can come over to our text layer. We can use our shortcut T for opacity. And this is a really cool feature of After Effects that you'll be using a lot, is the keyframe. Keyframes are how you animate properties. So we want to change the opacity of this text over time. So we'll click our little stopwatch or our little keyframe there. And so that made a keyframe. This is a keyframe right here. And so that says at this period in time, at this very millisecond, at this frame, this After Effects text is at 100% opacity. Then if we move forward a little bit in time and change our After Effects text so that it is at 0% opacity, then as time moves on, this After Effects text will slowly disappear. So here we'll bring in our work area a little bit, and then we'll just RAM preview this. And so you can see our text kind of slowly fades away. And so that's pretty cool. So you can do that with a lot of different things, obviously. So say we want to keep looking at our opacity and hold Shift R and look at our rotation. We can come back here to where this keyframe is. You make sure you want to line it up if you want it to happen at the same time. We'll keyframe our rotation, move forward. You can press Control arrow keys, Control left, Control right to line it up exactly. And then say we want this to kind of rotate as it goes away. We'll rotate it 180 degrees. And so now, I just did the RAM preview again. You can see the text rotates away. And now that's not the most prettiest, or very pretty rotation, but it kind of shows you the point. Okay, so our final thing to look at here in After Effects before we get going is the effects and presets. Now this panel is one of the coolest in After Effects, and this is where everything really happens. This is where all the magic happens. And so in here, there's a bunch of different options. Say you want to add a blur to your layer for some reason. So we'll type in fast blur, because we don't like slow blurs around here. So we'll drag it down onto this layer, our footage layer. And so now we have a fast blur there. You don't see anything yet because it's not blurred, but we can turn this up and you can see our footage gets really blurry. Now you wouldn't really want to do that in this situation, but say you wanted to blur something out maybe in the background and you only had that thing selected, then you could blur one thing at a time. Also, you can see that this After Effects text is not affected by the blur. So say you wanted to have maybe the After Effects text blurry and this not, then you could do something cool like that. Or you can even, as we talked about earlier, come down in here and come up here and you can keyframe the blurriness. So we'll set this to 0, and then as this text slides away, we'll set this to some really high number so it's really blurred out. And now if we RAM preview this, as that text slides away, the screen gets blurry. And so that might be a cool transition. So now we're actually getting somewhere. Okay, so say we want to look at something else. There's a bunch of different options in here that you can play around with, and I highly suggest that you go through and just kind of learn some of these. This may look a little overwhelming right now, but I'm sure as time passes you'll be able to master almost all of these really pretty easily. Okay, well that's about it for your basic introduction to After Effects. After this tutorial, you should be able to navigate yourself around this software a little bit better and just kind of get a basic understanding of what's going on. In later tutorials, we'll progress this knowledge slowly but surely as you figure out this really pretty amazing program, Adobe After Effects. Okay, well before you go, just make sure you clickety-clack that like button. It really helps out, not that, really helps out my channel. Okay, well my name's Kastan.day, and I'll see you in my coming tutorials.